What's up, Bridal Babes? I hope you're ready for another exciting episode of your favorite local wedding show, Bridal Buzz. I'm your host, Kat, and today we're joined in the studio by our in-house couples therapy specialist, Priscilla Rodriguez M.S. LMFT of Modern Wellness Counseling. So if you guys have been around, you know that she comes in here every quarter to give a couples corner episode. So today's is going to be all about day of nerves, wedding jitters, advice how to get rid of it or how to just like face it and embrace it. So before we get started, quick shout out to 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service, our sponsor of today's show, and let's get started. Thanks again, Priscilla, for coming in. It's always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Yes, I love coming. Yeah, thanks for inviting me again.
Of course. And this topic, I feel like we were kind of chatting about this before we started recording, is something that I think everyone can benefit from, regardless of you, if you're the mother of the bride, if you're the groom, if you're, just like a friend who is a guest. This is something that can help, in any big day or big event in life is those like big day jitters. Wedding is a huge day for people. So kind of talk to me about what that even means. Like, what does it look like? What does wedding day jitters look like?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, it can come up in any situation, any event, and definitely like jitters, it literally is that, right? Like you feel like your nerves are just kind of like jumping off the wall, right? Maybe you're fidgeting with your hands. Maybe it's really hard to focus. Maybe it's really hard to kind of just like sit and be calm and have a conversation, right? I think for many people, there's this part of, I just need to get it over with, right? Like it's hard to stay here because I'm anticipating this next event or this next situation. Whether it is like, in your wedding day, right? Getting ready, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm walking down the aisle, we had to get ready for the first look, oh my gosh, now am I gonna like mess up when I'm saying my vows, like, so like
am I gonna trip walking down the aisle?
So you're literally like kind of thinking of every single step, right? So it can feel very overwhelming, and of course it's just like, kind of bouncing off the wall inside,
and if you have all of that happening at once, I know for me, I can get very overwhelmed in those thoughts, and just like what you're saying about hard to have a conversation. I totally get in that mode of like, if I'm anxious, it's a response for me, like a genuine response is going to be very hard. Like, my mind is somewhere else, and I'm so sorry it's not personal, but like, it's a very real thing. So, what are the common things that come up on that day of emotionally? Like, what are some signs where you might realize, oh my gosh, I'm in the jitters right now?
So I think, I'm definitely thinking back to my own personal experience on my wedding day and experiencing those wedding jitters, right? Because I know for me, it was like, hey, I need to stand up. Like, I know you're doing my hair right now. I know you're doing my makeup, but let me just like shake it out. Like, you kind of just feel like, that tension in your shoulders. Definitely if someone's talking to you and you're noticing, you're like, what'd you say? Wait, what'd you say? Right? Because your mind is completely somewhere else, right? So I think just kind of noticing that it can be behavioral, right? Just like this physical like movement. It can be this cognitive part where maybe it's hard to focus. And then, of course, just emotionally, like just feeling nervous. Right. And like we talked a little bit about, and I'm sure maybe we'll get a little bit more into it, but just feelings of like nervousness, excited, feeling anxious, right? Sometimes just your physical response can be the same. So it's just like normal to just like recognize like, okay, that I am feeling the jitters right now, and
like something's happening in my belly right now.
Definitely kind of that knot in your stomach or butterflies in your stomach, right?
So what would you say to someone who's like feeling these emotions? What would be your first kind of approach to helping them guide themselves through it?
I think the first part is knowing that it's normal, right? There's nothing wrong with you if you're experiencing these jitters, nothing bad about the choices that you have made if you are experiencing these jitters, right? Because I think sometimes it can come up and it's like, oh my gosh,
makes you question everything.
Did I make the right choice here or there, or the timing, people are going to show up on time, right? So all of a sudden you start questioning everything, right? And for many couples, they're planning for quite some time, right? They didn't just like call up people and were like, hey, tomorrow, show up.
Hey, we were like considering, like maybe not, we'll see. Show up.
Yeah. So there's been so much thought going into it. So I think definitely just kind of acknowledging like, yes, this is important to me.
Yeah.
This is such a big day. I've been looking forward to this for such a long time. Of course, I'm feeling this way because I want it to be perfect, or I want it to go as well as possible.
The anticipation has built up to this moment.
Yeah.
So I guess once you're in that like acceptance of this is normal, and this is not just people who have diagnosed anxiety, like is that what you'd call it? Situational anxiety. It's a very real thing. And maybe something like this might be the first event that you're feeling something this big. So kind of from an approach of, wow, this is the first time I've felt this much anxiety before. Like, what's the first step of, after I know that it's normal, how do I talk to myself through that, I guess?
Right. Yeah. So I think definitely, like, you know, it's okay to say, hey, I need a break. Right? Especially if you're, you know, getting ready, you have someone on your hair, you have someone in your face, you have a videographer and photographer there, right? You have like your mom there, your sister, you know, your friends, and sometimes it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I just need a couple of minutes. Right? I just need to go take a walk, or I just need to go outside and get some fresh air. And in that moment, right, it's okay to kind of just reframe just cognitively, like, hey, yeah, I'm feeling nervous right now, but I'm really excited. Like, this is something that I'm you know, have been looking forward to. I know it's going to be the best because I've put so much thought into it already.
Because it's mine. Actually, we had a bride bring this up recently, Alexandra. She was supposed to go and, I don't know, like get ready with her bridesmaids or like switch rooms with her groom. And she was like, I'm actually going to like order room service and just like hang out in the hotel room by myself for an hour or so. And that was like one of her big pieces of advice was, take time with yourself, by yourself. And I feel like, especially if you're introverted and you need to like refresh that energy supply for yourself, just taking a minute, especially on a day where you're going to be around like potentially hundreds of people, very, very wise.
Yeah. Wow, I'm so proud of her for being able to just like acknowledge that part of herself.
Yeah, she's a queen. She knows how to advocate for herself for sure. Okay, so what about, I know I was reading Bridal Babes, you'll be able to find this same topic of conversation on the blog. And I was reading the content, and there was something about retraining your thoughts. And that is huge for me. I think, you know, your thought process kind of defines your path. You know, it might sound hokey pokey, but I really do believe manifestation is real. So, you know, the thoughts you're thinking are very, very important. So talk to me about that a little bit.
So I think, and this is a tool that can be applied to any situation, right? Even if you're at the grocery store, you know, super like basic, right? But on your wedding day, right, if you are finding yourself doubting yourself, right? Oh my gosh, I made this choice. Was that the right choice, right? All of a sudden you're kind of putting yourself kind of in this little like hole. And you notice that, right? Like your body like changes, right? You're kind of just like slouching down, and catch it, right? When you catch it, just say like, okay, that's normal. It's okay. I'm acknowledging that I'm in that thought process, but you know, in reality right now, I am just excited. Right. And you know, these thoughts that I'm having are okay. Right. And doesn't make me a bad person. Doesn't make the event a bad person. And something that's really grounding, I use a lot of grounding techniques with my clients, especially with anxiety, because you just need something to kind of anchor you down. You know, most brides on their wedding day are wearing like their engagement ring, right? So like to keep it kind of on topic, right? Like touching your engagement ring, right? Looking at your engagement ring and just being like, yeah, this is happening, right? And like today we are going to celebrate our love. Today I am going to marry my best friend, right? So just being able to like remind yourself of like, oh yes, kind of the main picture, right? The biggest, you know, the reason why all this is happening. So I think sometimes there can be like a worry, right? We talked about like doubt, like, oh my gosh, did I make the right choice about the linen or you know, the time of the ceremony?
Could be the small, the shade of lipstick I'm wearing, you know, it could be the smallest thing.
Like, but it can also be on the complete opposite end, right? Of like, should I be getting married?
Is this the right person? Do I want marriage?
Right. All of a sudden you're kind of questioning, everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's important not to associate like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous, that must mean I should not get married. Right? Because you've had so many, I would hope, like so many like events leading up to your wedding day to kind of reinforce like, hey, this is happening.
You said yes.
Yeah, you said yes. Y'all have had the conversations. Hopefully you did the premarital counseling, right? You did all the things that kind of really focus in on like, yeah, this is what I want, right? This is who I want, because on that one day, right, you still may be feeling nervous, but to associate, by then like that nervousness of no, like I'm not doing it, right, may not be like actually what's happening, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, I'm there's this anticipation, and of course there are some rare few, right, where like weddings don't happen, right? Someone is left at the altar, unfortunately. But I think there's that part of, I think the vast majority, there's this piece of like, yeah, we've did the engagement, we've had the bridal showers, we've done the counseling, we've, maybe we're already living together, we talked about the finances, do we want kids, right? So there's been so much that's already happened.
Yeah, so I feel like there are a couple of different forms of anxiety that you could feel on your wedding day. I feel like performance anxiety is a huge one, but there could also be like other forms of anxiety questioning deeper things. Hopefully we're not in that place. But yeah, no, that's a very real, I think I hadn't even thought about like the differences of anxieties that you can feel. And I'm like also thinking about Inception and their I don't know what they call it, their like totem or token or something that they use to like to remind themselves that they're like grounded and like in reality. It's a very real thing though, having that physical thing to just keep you in the zone. And it's like an attachment sometimes, so like even with like something like physical, right, you're noticing just your body like during that walk that you need to kind of just like get away, because internally it's kind of a lot like it's like getting your engagement ring and like breathe in when you turn it in one way, breathe out when you turn it the other way, right? So again, it's a grounding exercise and your mind's focusing on something that is helping you. Right. So before we keep getting into this, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service. Bridal babes, if you are looking for a bar service for your wedding, you have to check out 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service. They have an incredible professional staff, TABC certified, of course, ready to design delicious, specially crafted drinks, provide an excellent service for your wedding reception, cocktail hour, rehearsal dinner, whatever you name it, they are ready to help you. So make sure you check out 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service on SanAntonioWeddings.com today, and let's keep going. Okay, so we were kind of talking about breathing techniques, and this is something that personally has really helped me in my own performance anxiety, is just getting in control of my breath. I've been at vocal competitions before and people have been like, what are you doing? And I'm like, just let me do my thing. I know I look crazy and sound crazy right now, but I'll be like blowing into my fist, just like to gain control of my abdominal muscles again. But it's a very real tool for me. So I know that someone else out there is going to benefit from it. So what are some easy, breathing techniques for people that they can just whip out on the day of if they need to?
Right. Yeah. So I think a big one is, I would definitely advocate for this, when you wake up on your wedding day, when you're getting ready, before you walked on that, right, before every kind of little situation, is something to kind of place one hand on your chest and the other one like on your belly, and notice, like, kind of imagine like the air going into your belly, inflating your belly, right? So you kind of physically feel your hand move, and then as you exhale, feel it deflate. You kind of feel your hand go back down, and just do that like for 5 long deep breaths. And it doesn't have to be a whole yoga session, right? Or a whole thing, right? I think sometimes people think like, if I'm going to take care of myself, if I'm going to do deep breathing, if I'm going to think better, I have to, this huge commitment, right? And it's literally like these little microseconds, right? It doesn't have to be forever.
Could be while you're taking a shower, just
yeah, like while you're walking down the aisle, right? Just like these little moments of, I'm here and I'm present. Because that can definitely refocus in that moment. And when your brain is noticing, oh, my hand is going up and down, right? You're giving your brain something to focus in on and to think about, right? Our brains are meant to think, right? That's what they do. So if you say like, don't think about anything and just relax, right? It's like, we'll like have a wedding today.
Right.
Right. So you're going to be focused on everything.
Yeah.
So just giving it something to do in that moment,
right.
Is going to be super beneficial.
Nice. Yeah. And I think it's, going back to your brain is meant to think, like, and yeah, just don't be disheartened if you're trying to hone in and get zen and your brain is still like, it's not meant to just go blank, right? That's, I think, the common myth of meditation. Yeah. You're not going to just like fall asleep in your brain. Like, it's just like learning to be in control. And the breath is a huge contribution to that brain to body connection. So besides the breath technique and that kind of grounding situation, what other physical tools could you recommend for the day of jitters?
Yeah. So I think definitely, just kind of going back to some of the basics, right? If you are physically feeling this pent up energy, right? Maybe take a moment to stretch. Maybe tell your bridesmaids and, whoever's in the room with you or around you, like, hey, let's put some music on. Let's have a little dance session, even if it's for a couple of minutes. Drink some water. I know sometimes people like to have like maybe some mimosas or coffee, right? And that's only going to make things a little bit worse inside, right?
Especially and dehydrated.
Yeah, and dehydrated, right? Especially when you're feeling nervous, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to kind of like amp that up.
Yes.
Especially if you're like, didn't sleep the night before because you were nervous or you are excited.
No, I cannot drink coffee before a performance because I can't control my breath. It really, so maybe the morning of my wedding, I'll probably have 1 cup too. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine myself going like all in on the coffee because it just, does not bring out the best of me.
Yeah. So definitely kind of noticing that of what am I kind of consuming right now.
Right.
So take a moment to drink some water and just rehydrate and drink the water slowly, right? Just kind of notice how refreshing it is, right? Maybe have some, fruit or something really light that's going to not upset your stomach too. Because I think whenever we are nervous, right, our stomach can do funny things. So maybe not having like, a big breakfast that you normally wouldn't ever have. Yeah. Right. So it's normally just those things of like kind of sticking to what in that, in those moments. And these are things that you can start practicing now. Yeah.
And you are what you eat, right? So like for me, I'm not supposed to do gluten and dairy. Sometimes I do, but I definitely know if I had it the morning of my wedding, like it affects my mood. Right. It, not just my physical, how I'm feeling, it affects my mental space as well. So definitely, how you're feeding yourself that morning, not just with your thoughts, but what you're eating and drinking. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great advice. So you kind of mentioned like bringing in your bridesmaids and doing a little dance for a couple of minutes, which I actually really love that idea and might just do it even if I'm not anxious. Yeah. Like let's have a moment together before we put on our outfits. How else can that support system come into play to be there for you in your wedding day jitters?
Yeah. I think if you already know that you're a person who can get anxious, I think definitely having them, same here. I think definitely kind of just letting them know like, hey, on the big day, like on our the wedding day, just check in with me, bring me a glass of water, like just, find a way to make me smile or, just kind of focus on what's going on.
Yeah, like don't bring up these certain topics.
Right, yeah. Don't say, guess who's here or guess who's not here. Yeah. Look where they're sitting, right? After you worked hours
Look
on
what they're wearing.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. So just finding these little moments to help you stay kind of focused in. So I think sometimes it can, if it's like oh, we don't like that person, they showed up, right? It's not going to help in how you're feeling in that moment. So, I think it can go either way, right? Hey, don't bring these certain things up. That really makes me uncomfortable. It's been stressful throughout the whole wedding, planning process. On the wedding day, I don't want to have to think about that, right? And maybe that's something that you have to share with a parent as well.
A do not discuss list.
Yeah, because I think it's very normal, right? Yeah. For them, it's important, and maybe it is important for you too, but maybe on that one day for those 10, 12 hours, it's like, hey, I just want to not think about that right now. And that's okay. You know, it's still going to be there the next day. And you can think about it then if you want. So I think definitely bringing them in and just sharing that part. And that's whether you're anxious or not, right? Because I think, you know, like we mentioned, there can be situational anxiety. Maybe you've never really experienced that. You've never really had to plan a big event, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, like all these people want to take a picture with me, and I just want to eat my food.
So like it really comes down to communication at the end of the day, right? Making sure your bridal squad, your bridal party, the people who are going to be there with you the whole day are on the same page as you when it comes to what to do and what not to do. I really love the idea of making a do not discuss list. We'll be implementing that on my wedding day.
Right.
I hope it's not all hitting you all at once. And I'm a little plug for Modern Wellness Counseling. A little pre-work on premarital counseling would probably significantly reduce your day of jitters. So why don't you give a little plug for some of your programs and packages that you offer?
So we offer some online courses. So this is for couples who are busy, on the go. They can have it all on their phone, right, and do it when they want. So there's exercises that go through how to manage anxiety, how to manage stress, how to talk about it with your partner, sharing your own personal interest. And sometimes, you know, it's normal for people to be different, right? So if there are differences, you know, if there's some information how to have those conversations, how to manage conflict. So a lot of it goes into, you know, just like your relationship foundational skills, but then it also talks about the premarital piece, you know, kids, right? Finances, where are you going to live? How are you going to support each other in a career? Sexual intimacy, what does that look like for each of you? Understanding each other's background. So I think these are all things that are very important in a relationship. And you may not hit all the topics, right, leading up to your wedding.
Some things just don't come up naturally. Like you have to actually
be in that process.
Make the conversation
but all those tools are there, and they have it, you know, forever, you know, as long as you remember your login. If not, you can press forgot password, right, and get access to it. So those are online courses, and then we do the same thing with virtual therapy sessions, where we talk with the couple and kind of go a little bit deeper in kind of helping them actually facilitate how they have the conversation, and kind of step in if like, hey, you know what, maybe this will be a little bit more helpful in making sure your partner feels heard. Because I know that's always a big one of, well, I am talking and they don't get it, right? So we help couples get it.
Third party therapist involved is always a plus, I think, for working through hard conversations. And Jackson and I will definitely be partaking in some premarital counseling, just because I feel like the best way to set yourself up for success. Like, you know, we've already been through what we've been through, but we're ready to make sure we're in it for the long haul together. So we will 100% be a modern wellness couple. Yay! So where can our couples or anybody listening to today's episode find these resources, find more information about you and modern wellness counseling?
So we have a lot of information, as well as free resources and the online courses and premarital counseling packages on our website, which is modernwellnesscounseling.com. And then we're also pretty active on Instagram and Facebook, which is at Modern Wellness Counseling, and also on TikTok. So that's kind of a new one. So
we love seeing you on TikTok.
I'm doing that. It's fun.
Yay. Well, thanks again so much for coming in. And Bridal Babes, don't forget, the buzz doesn't have to stop here. We are everywhere online, including TikTok, like she just mentioned. I sounded like a stewardess right there. And we have new Bridal Buzz episodes every week that come out, so make sure you stay tuned for the next one. And quick shout out again to today's sponsor, 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service. Check them out on sanantonioweddings.com and Modern Wellness Counseling. Thanks again, Priscilla. If you would just wave to this camera and say bye.
Bye-bye.